Before we get going into your Hockey IQ podcast episode, I want to thank our sponsor, Rapid Shot. Rapid Shot is the smart shooting lane. It's like a batting cage for hockey players. Very cool. Tracks your shot in 3 ways: accuracy, shot speed, and reaction time. Easy to use. Actually, I used it when I played and was growing up. Very easy. Simply scan your phone in, select your settings, and start shooting. You can see your stats on the app and online. You can check them out at rapidshot.com. Great small business. I actually grew up with one of the owner's sons and have played with all the family members by now, just in local pickups here in Ohio. Very cool local business. Awesome product. I love it. I know quite a few NHLers have them in their homes. A lot of D1 programs have it at their rinks. So you have to check this out. Rapidshot.com. Check it out. Rapid Shot, thank you so much for sponsoring our podcast.
On today's episode of the Hockey IQ podcast, we bring on Hiroki Wakabayashi. Barely said that one right. Been dreading it all day, but I think hit it out of the ballpark. And he was a great listen. Really get to understand someone who's coming from completely different background. It's not the traditional, USA Hockey or Hockey Canada. He's well traveled. It was a great episode. What Dan did you take away?
Yeah, that was awesome. It's good to have people on with different backgrounds and also different lenses in which they see the game. And his goalie background's fascinating. I pulled up his resume on his website off worldhockeylab.com, and it puts anything I've ever done to shame. It's just like pages and pages and pages of accomplishments. And he's a really interesting and just fascinating guy to talk to.
Yeah, I really enjoyed our in-depth talk. It's tough to talk about box control and RVH and some different things like that just on a podcast without the visuals. But I thought we did a great job with that, and he explained it really well. So for all those that don't know what the RVH is, I've got a link in the podcast description below. It's the article we did on it, and I'll understand post-play a little bit better if you're not so much into goaltending. Make it very easy to read. So I'm excited to get into this episode. Dan, do you have any last minutes to add to this? I know Hiroki's battling cancer right now. He's kind of in between treatments, but what a great guy.
Great guy. Let's send it over.
Hiroki, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me.
I'm super excited to have you on. You were a big part of our Point Shots Suck newsletter.
Yep.
So can't thank you enough for that great research. That really hammered home our point.
Thank you. Glad you like it.
Yeah. So I think you've got a pretty fascinating story all the way around, and even just from your humble beginnings in Japan. So if you wouldn't mind giving a quick background for the listeners at home who don't really know you that well.
Yeah. So my name is Hiroki Wakabayashi, and I am originally from Japan. So I played hockey till college level in Japan, but somehow get involved in hockey coaching over there. And actually that's starting from becoming a translator, interpreter for Francois Allaire when he was coming to Japan in, I believe it's 1991 or 92 for Nagano Olympic project. So my father was working for Japanese Ice Hockey Federation back then, and I could speak a little bit of English. So he recommended me to become an interpreter. So that's how I started hanging out with Francois. Then I quickly realized that his theory is, groundbreaking goaltending theory in the world, and I thought he's doing is quite cool. So I try to follow him and become a goalie coach. And actually, I am not personally a goalie at all. I am a forward. So it's kind of funny, but that's the way I get into the coaching path. Then after that, I graduated from university and decided to take the master course in sports. Then at the same time, I try to explore my resume in hockey coaching. So I left Japan, then started coaching in Peterborough, Ontario for minor Petes. So that was like a U18 level back then. Then after 2 seasons, I moved to Minnesota and started coaching Division III women's hockey there with the University of St. Mary. Then after that, I came back to Japan, then started coaching college level over there. Then I had a chance to coach in professional league there, Asia League Hockey. So I became an assistant coach for one of the teams. Then I spent a couple of years over there, then decided to move back to US again, actually North America again. So I came to Canada again, around the Quebec area, up in the mountain. There's a hockey boarding school. Now it's getting popular, hockey academy thing. Back then that was not very popular, but it's a school called Harrington College of Hockey or something like that. Then I went there for one season and coached a bunch of different kids from like 12 different countries, which is interesting by itself. Then I moved to San Jose to coach junior Sharks over there for one season. Then I had a chance to come to Phoenix, Arizona, then moved to Phoenix. Then after 5 seasons over there, I decided to move out with the working visa purpose. I had to renew my work visa, so I had to leave the country a little bit. Then I moved to Turkey, Istanbul, and coach over there for half season. Then I moved to Hong Kong for 2 seasons and worked at national teams over there, men's national team and women's national team. Then I finally get back in US 2015 to Arizona, and that's it for now. Then I'm here in Arizona since then. So it's a long journey.
Well-traveled.
Well-traveled.
Oh, yeah.
There is so much to dig into, but before, I don't want to get too far ahead. Let's start at the beginning. Like, I'm so curious what it was like growing up playing hockey in Japan, and how is it any different than it is today, or if you know?
Well, hockey is never a popular sport in Japan. And actually, back then, that was a little more popular than as of now. The Japanese economy is hurting for about 20 years. So obviously, hockey is going down. So, one of the peaks of the Japanese hockey, it should be like Nagano Olympic, right? We hosted the Nagano Olympics in 1998. So that was one of the peaks we had. But after that, it's actually going down. So when I started playing hockey, I was like 11 years old, and I'm from Osaka, Japan. So hockey is even less popular over there. But somehow I lived close to the rink, so I found the sport, and that's how I started. But of course, there are only a few teams around Osaka area, and at the college level, there are more teams around Tokyo. Then, so I moved to the college around Tokyo, not at the Tokyo, but so that's how I kept on playing hockey. So it's different, but we've been having our professional leagues years, actually. So we started out with the Japanese Elite Professional League. Then after that, they kind of merged with the Korean teams and teams from China, and they call them Asian League Hockey. And it's been going on about 20 years. So it's quite different.
So you've been to a bunch of places. You've clearly learned from a lot of different areas. You've seen how things have been done in different areas of the world. Is there a difference between the way North America does it and the rest of the world? Is one way better than the other? Like, how do you manage all of these different cultures and how hockey is thought of and merge it into like best practices? And where do you like to pull from?
It's hockey is hockey, basically. So on the ice, it's not much of a difference, but off the ice, it's quite a bit different because of, the way the structure hockey in North America is much better than anywhere else because, this is the very center of the hockey business in the world. Like 2/3 of the hockey population, registered population, they're in North America, US or Canada, 2/3. So it's gigantic. So of course, there's so many levels in hockey here. So, you can be like beer league player or NHL player, but you can fit in somewhere. So it's very, very different, but pretty much anywhere else. And especially like hockey developing countries in Asia, very, very tough to find the right level to play. So let's say you're 12 years old hockey kid in Hong Kong. He could be as good as like AAA kids in US actually. Like some of the kids can really play, but in order to find the right level for them to play, it's very, very difficult because they have to now play with like 16 years old boys, and you're only 12 years old, but your skill is good enough. But as we all know, that's not the right fit for him. You know what I mean? So it's very, very different and difficult when you're elite players in that area and you have to find somewhere. So most likely you have to leave the country. So that applies to the countries like Japan as well. If you're top players in Japan, you have no choice but leave the country, and which is not easy. So that's the biggest difference. The North American hockey structure is so well organized. Of course, they're good and bad, but overall it's well structured.
You mentioned your time with Francois Allaire as a real formative part of your hockey life, and now you own a company, World Hockey Lab. Can you tell our listeners about that? So
World Hockey Lab is basically my business name when I do my camps and clinics in North America. And when I'm in Japan, I use the Hockey Lab Japan name to do the business. So under this name, I run hockey camps and some kind of hockey consulting. Then I also run my hockey website and showing my stats and things like that. So that's what I do. Yeah, so summertime and springtime, it's a busy time for me because I usually go back to Japan for about 2 months, then running the camps in different cities. Then after that, I come back to US and do my camps around US. So it's easy.
Are the camps for players and goalies, or just one or the other?
Most likely goalies, but I work players as well, especially when I'm in Japan. So yeah, I do both. I enjoy both actually.
So my question to you is how do you take your experience as a player and transpose that onto a goalie? And then are you still in touch with Francois Allaire? Are you still working with him, kind of teaching those types of principles? How does that work? How does those camps work? Dan and I we don't know Mitch Korn specifically himself, but we have a lot of connections to him. So curious to see what he's doing compared to Mitch.
Yeah. So first of all, as a forward, I think that was my actual advantage to learn how to coach goalies from Francois Allaire, because back then Francois' theory was like way ahead of its time. So he came to Japan and tried to teach his way, and people were shocked, and actually they couldn't. Many of the so-called experts, they couldn't accept it just by the fact like you have to go down to stop the low shot. They're like, why? You go down, you got score 5-0, that's no good. You have to place your stick ahead of you, not right in front of the pads. And they're like, why? So many experts, so they couldn't accept those kind of theories. But for me, I'm just playing forward, and to me, it's, his theory just makes sense. Like everything makes sense, and I'm like, wow, that's good. So for me, there's no obstacle, like there's no mental obstacle to go over to accept his theory. So that's part of the reason I get along with Francois very well at the beginning to now. So that's what I think. Then the way, like I say, the way he coached goalies is just way ahead of its time. So many of the modern theories that we all know nowadays, it's pretty much created and organized by himself like 30 years ago. So it's been a blast for me to learn, from one of the very best from the world. That's for sure.
When you work with kids today, and it's just assumed, right, that they'll learn butterfly, do you ever have to explain that it's like not that old of a concept and it wasn't always done this way? That must be like a crazy trip for these goalies who, they just accept it that this is how it's always been, right?
Yeah. So basically, that's all they see from TV. Right. Nowadays, I don't really have to explain it. You just do it, just like the NHL goalies do. But back then, like 20 years ago, that was a completely different world. You always have to battle with the local coaches because they don't like the way I coach and stuff like that. So it's been a long way.
Aside from butterfly, what's something that has changed dramatically in goaltending, physically or mentally, over the last generation?
Most people don't realize what most people don't realize is butterfly is just a saving technique, and it's not the center of the modern goaltending style. I think what advanced most is the structured way to play goaltending. So if you talk about the goaltending, most people are thinking it's about the reaction to the shot, but it's not. It's about the positioning first. You have to get there. So the skating has to be revolutionized, and that's what one of the main things Francois did. The skating technique to move around the crease so you can get in front of the puck. Then you have to perform the saving, and which is butterfly, because most likely the shot is going along the ice back then. So you have to close the major part of the net. Then after that, this is even more important theory, but it's about the rebound. As long as you stop the puck, you're gonna create short rebound, the long rebound. Short rebound, you have to freeze it, so you got a whistle. And long rebound, you follow to the next position. Then you're going all the way back to the skating part. So now it's a big cycle. You move before the shot, stop the shot, and you move after the shot. So this is like a revolutionary concept, actually. So it is not just about stopping the puck with butterfly. It's about the way to organize in structure, the way you move around the net and play with the puck and rebound.
Well, I'm curious because I feel like it's been a hotly debated save selection. What your thoughts are of the RVH?
RVH, I think it's every time when the new skill like RVH or even fly is introduced, there's going to be a huge debate when to use and how to use, because it's most likely overused. So we've seen this pattern, like, when the butterfly style is introduced, everyone is criticizing butterfly because they all go down and you got scored high. Then after a few years, everyone accept butterfly is going to work, right? Then do you remember the paddle down thing? It was like an Eddie Belfour or Kelly Rudy kind of saving style, just all the way down to the paddle all the time and just scoring around. When it's used, it worked quite well and people like it and kids start using it. Then all of a sudden they overuse it. Then everyone is criticizing how bad it is. But after a few years, they finally figure out how to use it effectively and no one argue. And before RVH, there is the one pad down saving technique at the post. That was not reverse VH. It was actually VH. Same thing, overused and get scored on the shoulder, over the shoulder. They just criticize it, and now it's gone. And now reverse VH the same way. So I think it's a pattern. It's a new skill. First, they think it's gonna work 100%, but none of the skills gonna work 100% anyway. So soon they start figuring out how to use it effectively. So now it's a transition period. And, people tend to forget about how effective it is and just seeing how bad the goals are scored. So most likely you will see the highlight from NHL clips and saying like, wow, I should have stopped this because just because you're going down and reverse VH, you got scored, that's stupid. But it's not true. Because most of the time, like 100, if you got the shot, like 100 shots on goal, and you going down in reverse VH in a certain situation, you pretty much stop all of it, but 1 or 2 goals against. But it's on the TV, and everyone is criticizing. So statistically, I actually calculated, and I calculated all the dead angle goals, including reverse VH and things like that, mainly below the outside hash mark. It should be like bad goal, right? That bad goal, dead angle goal, happens only once in 169 shots, which is like once in 5 games average.
Right.
But it's on TV every day. So they're like, it's been happening every day, every shot, but it's not. It's only happening like once in 5 games. So it's about the perspective, and for for hockey fans, they can debate all day long, but for the coaching purposes, you cannot see the skills like that. You have to see what works and what doesn't work, and just try to fix it every day, and that's all about it. So that's my point.
I love how you're using data inside of that. It's not just observations, and I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about your website. And I actually picked up goaltending here recently. My brother moved to Charlotte, so I got to use his gear now that he left it behind. So I like to think I'm part of Goalie Nation. And I started with just doing the VH,
Nice.
but I'm already converted to starting to use the RVH here and there, because I don't know how to stop a puck on the ice to save my life half the time. Or if I see it coming, I'm just not fast enough yet. So yeah, I'm the overuser of the RVH. I need to figure out how to better utilize it. Clearly, you've got this down pat.
Yeah. One thing is about how to go down in RVH, but many goalies don't know how to get up from it. So that's a huge part too.
We were just talking the other day, a friend of mine and I, about how you could even quantify all the shots that aren't taken because a goalie is in good position. So if, let's say, you're wheeling the net and you're about to shoot on a wraparound, but the goalie is in an RVH, and because he's in such strong position, you defer on the shot and, make another play. That's not even going to be factored in on Hiroki or like 169 shot, analysis, right? So I'd be interested, we're not there yet, obviously, but I'll be interested to see if one day we can capture that in, our analytics. Anyway, that's just a tangent of mine. I'm curious, Hiroki, if you think it's a coincidence or not. That's kind of a leading question, so I apologize, that there are so many goalies who go on to have coaching roles or managerial roles as a percentage of the overall population.
I think it's been a trend. It didn't really start recently, right? Because I see many ex-goalies becoming very, very good coaches. I think partly because they're watching the game from behind, so they will see how the game is structured and how the game is developed from the back end. So I think that's part of the reason. And another way to say it is goaltending is very, very theoretical position. It's not like, you just play like how you feel and you're going to be successful. It is not. You really have to have the theory, and you really have to be disciplined to move within your theory. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to success. So that's part of the reason they're good on the coaching and management part of the game.
I'm a big fan of goalies. I feel like they're just so observational. They pick up on things that as a player I never would even think about. So I was lucky to have my brother as a goaltender, and figuring out how to solve the goalie and what's tough save, which are tough saves to make and things like that are critical. I'm assuming you've seen the same as coming from that player background into coaching goalies.
Oh yeah, for sure. To me, I'm lucky because I play out and I coach goalies. So I've seen both sides and I study both sides. So it's it's the same point from the different side. So I can see it from both sides. So it's been very, very lucky. And one thing I figure out is it's not about, people are talking about like, which hole should I pick when I face a goalie, glove high or 5-hole. But my understanding is it's not about the holes you can shoot, because if the goalie is in front of you already and gets set, the chance you can score is quite low anyway. So it's not about the shot itself, it's about the situation. You have to create the scoring situation instead of waiting for the goalie to come in front of you and try to pick the hole. But I do understand because I play both. I play both and I coach both.
All right, rapid fire question here. In general, if a shooter is looking to gain an advantage, should they shoot low on the net or high on the net?
Well, statistically, I have the stats already, and I'm talking about the NHL goals, like 2,000 plus NHL goals. Which hole is the most goal in NHL?
Are you asking?
I am asking because I know the answer already.
I bet it's low blocker.
High glove.
The answer is high glove. It's high glove. And after that, what is it after that? The second most scored area.
5-hole.
Oh, I think you read it already.
This guy already
5-hole.
knows it. Let's go.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. Everywhere in the world, you ask the coach or you ask the parents, they're complaining about how bad the glove side high is and how bad the 5-hole is for the kids, you know. But you're talking about the NHL goal is top of the world. It's the same weakness, high glove and 5-hole. Isn't it funny?
That is funny. Speaking of kids, I'm curious. So I coach youth hockey, so does Greg. And I've noticed over the last maybe year or two that USA Hockey's kind of pushed a little bit more for a split net, right? So like a goalie will play the first half of the game and then a cold goalie will come in and play the second half of the game. Whereas, you know, me growing up, and probably I'm probably speaking for you, but tell me if I'm not, you know, goalie would play game 1, goalie 2 would play game 2, for example. What do you think about that?
I think it's a fantastic idea to split the net, like, you know, even like half period and you switch the goalie. That's a fantastic idea for kids because, you know, once you come to the rink and you should play, you know, there shouldn't be a game for especially like 10 years old kid just sitting in the bench for a whole game. So I think it's a fantastic idea. And at the same time for the kids to focus for like 45 minutes, it's impossible for goalies. So it's just cutting half would be good idea, and cutting like quarter would be even better idea. So I like the idea.
That's good to know. I'm happy to have your endorsement. Is there, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, is there any concern at all about, you know, like going in cold or you know, you've been sitting on the bench for 45 real minutes or 40 real minutes and then playing, or not really?
Not really. I think they get used to it. And that's part of the reason I would go even more aggressively. Like, you know, maybe you can, if you want to switch goalie every 5 minutes, you can do it. And maybe it's a good thing to do because, you know, every time they come back to the bench, you know, the goalie coach can talk to the goalie and see, you know, how they fix the problem and stuff like that. So, and that way you're not going to get cold at all. So.
Right. That's interesting.
Goaltenders on the fly. Can we do this? Can this be a thing? Heck, we should even start pulling goalies when it's tied at the end of the game. Maybe like 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
I would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You support that?
It's okay. You know, as long as you know how to play. So as long as you can control the puck, and which is the name of the game anyway. So maybe the kid's gonna control the puck even better when you pull the goalie because you have to.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I'm sure you've seen this too. Sometimes teams play stronger when they're playing in front of like their weaker of the two goalies structurally. I think that's always kind of interesting. Okay, so you've mentioned a few times now different statistical research that you've done. Is there any other ones that we haven't brought up that you're especially, you know, proud of that would make us smarter, make our audience smarter? Because I feel like there's a lot there that we haven't touched yet.
Yeah, one of the things I researched a lot was the screenshot. You know, the guys in front of the net creating the traffic so the goalies cannot see the puck. It's a screen situation. So every time the goal scored, I count how many screens in front of the net, like offensively and defensively. So screen by your own defenseman and screen by the offensive player. And what I found out is quite interesting. The offensive screen done by the attacking player, it's only like 5% of the goal. Defensive screen made by your own defenseman is 10%. So doubled up. And double screen is 15%. And you all combining, it's like 35% or something. But the funny fact is you are getting scored through the screen created by your own defenseman. Twice as many.
Wow.
Yes.
That is fascinating. So is that a commentary on the way that teams play offense or the way they play defense? Because if you're the attacking team, if you drag somebody to the net, in theory, the other team will have a defenseman there to mark them, so there'll be twice the traffic, right? What do you think about that? Or are you saying that just by virtue of the defenseman being a defenseman, he's already standing there?
I think it's both, because it is very tough to tell the defenseman not to block the shot, right? So they will be blocking the shot, but sometimes they don't know how to block it. So if you're already in front of the puck, block it. But if you're too late and you have to go across, like a slide across goalie's eyes, don't block it. Because once you start doing it, goalie's going to lose the side of the puck. You know what I mean? but many defensemen, without knowing it, they just try to help the goalies and try to slide across goalies' eyes. So that's the problem, you know. But offensively, I think the forwards are getting very smarter to utilize the defensive screen as well. So instead of playing one-on-one and try to beat the guy all the way around, you know, you just move the puck between his leg and just shoot the puck. So it's going to be screened by his own defenseman, and goal is going to be in trouble. So it's I think it applies to both sides, offensively and defensively.
What are your thoughts on Tampa Bay? I know they played a few moments of where they didn't even have players in front. They didn't have that net front presence, as they say. It was kind of just clear it out and try to stretch the defense that way and get slot shots.
It makes sense too, because especially from right in front of the slot, that's that's the area you have the best scoring angle, right? So you don't really have to block the shot by your own screen, because it's gonna actually decrease the chance of hitting the net. I think except for power play though, I do know that power play situation they have a couple guys in front of the net. So
half the time when I play goal, I'm like, can you guys just not play defense in front of the net? If you guys can just slightly off to the sides, pick up a stick, that would be way more helpful for me, or at least that's how it feels as a novice. I'm not sure if that's something that NHL teams should start doing. Of instead of fronting the puck, just lean off to the side, let the goalie have maybe a single screen for the other opponent, and just pick up sticks, no rebounds, control that kind of stuff.
It is possible, but as I say, if the puck is already at the point, and if you're fronting the shot as a forward, I think you can still do it. But the problem is the screen getting closer to the net, and now it's going to be a real problem for the goalie. So, like I say, if you're already in front of the puck, you can block it. But if you're not, let the goalie see the puck and try not to help too much. So that's what I would say. So the worst screen the goalie can have is the screen's going in front and flash across from right to left, because there will be the moment that you're not gonna see the puck. So as long as the screen staying stationary in front of the net, you can see the puck from sideways. So
we've talked some about where we've come from, the evolution of the goalie position. Where do you think it's heading next? What are the big changes that we can expect to see in the next few years?
That's an interesting question, but I think the goalies going to be getting better on the reactioning part, because they know how to cover the lower part of the net, but the question is how to cover the higher part of the net effectively with using your hands. And now they're talking about the box control to create smaller box in front of you by placing your hands away from your body. And now it's time to work on how to move your hands effectively right and left. So that's going to be the area we really have to improve.
That's huge. The hands out in front are something I just drill on with my goalies. And I want to say that originated over in the Scandinavian countries back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where that started coming. And then, I understand what box control is, but maybe explain that for our listeners of what truly box control is, because there's not a lot of resources out there. I think there's maybe like 2 or 3 YouTube videos that do even a half decent job of explaining box control. Because I think it's a critical theory for goalies to understand, but really hard to conceptualize without materials of actually being able to see it or talk through it with someone who's gone through that before.
Well, it's a little bit tough concept to explain without using the visual, pictures or video. But the concept is, instead of trying to protect the net behind you, you try to protect the net in front of you. That is it. Because in order to make the shot coming from the stick to hit the top corner, it has to go through many different, many little nets in front.
Right,
that's
like planes
how I would
almost.
Explain.
Yeah.
Yes. So it has to go through many nets in front of you. So if your hands are placing beside you, you can only protect the shot beside you. But if your hands are away from your body and in front of you, you can touch the puck in front of you instead of like the top of the shoulder. So I can explain it very clearly using the stick and net visually, but it's very tough to do it right now. So
it is, and it's the same as kind of challenging, right? You're going out so that you don't have to cover as much net. You need less movements. You're more in control. Obviously, you're going to leave a little bit more net behind you when you kind of do those types of things. But I think box control is just a key concept of understanding of how your hands can challenge. It's not just your positioning with your feet.
Exactly. So you're challenging yourself out from the net is an old concept, but actually the box control is challenging out using your hands only, and it's going to be the same effect. Your hands are out and your positioning's a little bit behind. It's the same effect. You don't really have to challenge outside the crease to cutting down the shooting angle. And at the same time, there's a very interesting theory, the box control. Everyone is thinking like if you challenge out, you can close out the shooting angle, but you're only talking about shooting angle outside of you. Inside of your body, the shooting angle actually increase if you challenge out. You know what I mean? Let's talk about the 5-hole. If you're not challenging out, your 5-hole is your 5-hole at the same size. But if you're challenging out to the puck like 6 feet, you're actually expose more net from your 5-hole. Makes sense, right?
It does make sense. It's really interesting to conceptualize that. I've never really even thought about it before.
Yeah, so that's part of the reason the reverse VH is getting scored from right beside the net from a couple inches off the post. If you try to hit that little hole with the skate and the pad from the blue line, you cannot do it because it's too small to hit it, and you can react to it very easily. But the puck is too close when it's like a foot length. The 3 inches by 3 inches hole could be much, much bigger from the puck point of view. You know what I mean? So the challenging out is not really covering all the scoring angle. It can only decrease the scoring angle outside of the body. Inside of the body, the scoring angle actually increase if you challenge out or if the puck is getting close.
This is exactly what you're talking about earlier. You need to understand the philosophy and the concepts behind the position. You can't just go out and go crazy and
freelance it.
Yeah, you really have to have that base. So that's great. And man, box control is huge, especially the hands. So I know you're doing a lot of work just trying to get goaltending into more people's hands, especially non-goaltenders with USA Hockey. Maybe explain a little bit of what you're doing with the goalie as a goalie development leader for USA Hockey out in Arizona and the Rocky Mountain region.
Well, I think it's been my pleasure to do this kind of a job because, I want to walk for many goals as possible. So this is a position to help out the USA Hockey events like Tri Hockey events or goaltending coaching clinic or goaltending clinic itself. So it's a local leadership kind of a role that can help out the USA Hockey events of goaltending around Arizona. So I work with the development leaders within Arizona, and at the same time, I work with the development coordinator in Arizona, so they can have a goalie clinic and goalie coaching clinic around Arizona. So I can help out as many goalies as possible, not just my club.
That's huge. It's such a nuanced position. No one really gets access to it until you try it out or someone who's close to it. Again, I was blessed to have my brother as a goalie, so I got to see the evolution of his game and how he played, even just AAA hockey up through U18s. It's insane, and the focus level that they build up over years and years and years of focus is incredible. So, major respect for goaltending and what you're doing out there. This has been a great episode. I don't know any other things that we're missing about goaltending because it's such a wide-ranging topic, but something that's super important and not talked about enough.
One thing I really have to talk here is the importance of the skating ability for goalies. It's been said, but it's not been done yet to develop the skating ability when they're younger. And one of the conclusions I get is you really shouldn't play specifically goalie position till you get like maybe 12 years old. And of course you can play part-time, but not full-time. So I try to endorse my goalies within my club not to specialize to play goal full-time till like 12 years old, because I want them to skate around and I want them to how to skate, how to shoot the puck. It's going to be huge. And if you're a beginner and you cannot even skate, and try to put the pads on and try to T-push and stop, that's pretty much impossible. It's like a torture for kids. You score and you're not going to get improved at all. So instead of doing that, I want them to skate out and get the basic ability. If you can skate around and stop, you can T-push, stop, no problem. So it has to be done that way. So that's my point.
That's awesome. That's really great advice. All right. Well, before we let you go, do you have a great book recommendation for us? Anything you've read recently that catches your eye?
Not a recent book, but I always recommend to people to read the Mental Toughness book done by Jim Allaire. He's like a mental toughness giant. He's one of the guys who come up with the concept of the mental toughness itself. So it's a book called The New Toughness Training for Sports, and the author is Jim Allaire. And another good mental toughness book is The Inner Game of Tennis. That is done by Tim Galloway.
So I'm a big fan of The Inner Game of Tennis. I actually started writing an article about how that can translate to hockey and how you can use field learning. So I don't know how I'm going to transfer that, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think what I like about theory is it's not about how to be in that zone, thing like that. It's about how to interpret how to make the interpretation or how to make the perception of the things happening around you, and try to control what you can control instead of try to worry or try to personalize everything happening around you. So I think it's not only good for sport, but it's really great for the human life itself. And I think I got help out by his theory and Jim Allaire's toughness theory a lot.
Couldn't have said that better. And I'm assuming that has come full circle for you. Maybe give a little shout out to some people that have been great for you, because I know you've had a tough battle with cancer right now. So maybe expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's been a battle for me with the cancer, multiple myeloma for this year. And what I found is the thing I learned from the sports, like a mental toughness and the coaching kind of thing, and everything really, really helped me out in battling through this moment. Because without that, it's not easy. But I already know that how to control my mind, and I already know that I can only control what I can control. So it's simple of the life, but unless you have this kind of a big disease, you're not realizing how important it is to apply to your life. So it's been very, very helpful. So I recommend all the people to get involved in sports and learn how to manage your state of mind and stuff like that. That's going to help your well-being all around your life.
Wonderful. Well, it's been great having you on. At the end of every episode, we love to leave the floor open. So 2 minutes, talk about anything you want. It's all yours.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, first of all. Then, like I say, it's been not easy year for me, and pretty much it's been very, very difficult year for all of us. But like I say, control yourself and control what you can control around you, and it's going to be all fine at the end. So that's all.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to catching up with you down the road.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning into the Hockey IQ podcast. We are Hockey's Arsenal, Greg Revac and Dan Dukart. Together, we've come together to create a platform and a community to expand on hockey intelligence, hockey IQ, whatever you want to call it. We're very passionate about seeing this game played smarter and better and continue to develop itself to the next level and staying on the cutting edge of things. So you can find us at Hockey's Arsenal on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're also at hockeysarsenal.com. From there, you can find some resources and some options to work with us. We're excited to continue this. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, follow, and share. You can also join up for our newsletter as well, where we're going to tackle anything hockey IQ related. So we're excited to have everyone here and continue to build.
That concludes this week's episode. Thanks for joining us here at Hockey IQ. If you haven't already, take a quick moment to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and drop a review. If you want to be a great teammate, even recommend us to a friend. You can follow us at Hockey's Arsenal on Twitter and Instagram. Check out the website, hockeysarsenal.com, where you can subscribe to the weekly newsletter. You won't regret it. Catch your buttes here next week for a brand new episode.